Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Jerusalem Press Club briefing. My name is Matthias Akal, project manager at the club. Our topic today is Israel's northern border, and our guest today is Major General in Reserve, Yaakov Amidror, former National Security Advisor, former head of the Research Department in the IDF's Military Intelligence Directorate, and senior fellow at the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security, JINSA. General Amidror, thank you for being with us today.
I'm glad to be with you. So thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, so let's start with the general question to begin this conversation. Can you elaborate on the current security situation in the north?
Yeah, I want to begin. I asked to speak about the north because everyone is very busy with the south. And I think that the south decision had not been taken yet. And each side is waiting to the other side to make the decision. And so all those who try to be prophets and to try to understand and to elaborate and to assess what will happen, it's a very good speculation, but I don't see them understanding really what will happen. I think that the two sides didn't make the decision yet. So we are in the middle of a process during which they will have to make decisions in both sides. And it's not only Israel and Hamas, it is Israel, Hamas, the Americans, the Egyptians, Qatar. All these together are in the midst of a process which I don't know how will be ended. About the north, I think that in the north something historical happened. The situation in the north is totally different than the situation of the north during when it was in the beginning of the war. Totally different from the beginning of the war. And it's very rare that in such a short time, things change dramatically as it was changing in Lebanon. You know, the funeral of Nasrallah supposed to send the message of strong Hezbollah, which is still handling Lebanon and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it was a very poor event. The president of Lebanon didn't come. The secretary of Hezbollah didn't come. He spoke from the screen. The Israeli Air Force was on the skies of the funeral, and it was clear who is controlling the skies. And at the end, the president of Lebanon told the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Iran, which represent the state in the funeral, that Lebanon doesn't want to be involved in others' wars. Who are the others, by the way? And you could see the demonstration of which celebrated the funeral in Syria, and you could understand that many Sunnis, probably in Lebanon as well, are not so sorry about the fact that he was eliminated. But I think this is just symbolize the situation of Hezbollah. It is something more than that. It's first time in its history that Hezbollah is isolated in Lebanon. They don't have the ability that they had in the past to use the land bridge from Tehran to Beirut, and the way to rearm there does not exist. You can bring a lot of money in flights from Tehran or other places to go through third countries, but you cannot do it with weapon systems. People can go outside to get training, but you cannot send forces into Lebanon. So it's the first time in its history that Hezbollah is isolated within Lebanon. And I don't want to elaborate what might happen if the Sunnis in Syria decide to go with the Sunnis in Lebanon fighting Hezbollah. But it's not just Hezbollah. You know, a few years ago, King Abdullah said that what Iran is doing is Iran is building Shiite crescent in the Middle East, going from Tehran through Baghdad into Damascus and Beirut to the Mediterranean, which is the old dream of the Iranians. to reach the Mediterranean. Now the crescent was broken. Even the Iraqis understand the situation, and they told the Shiite militias in Iraq to stop launching missiles into Israel. They didn't let the Iranians to cross the border into Syria when the Iranians supplied to them. So it is Hezbollah, it is Iran, it is Syria, and what happened from the Israeli point of view is that the ring of fire, which was one leg out of two, the second one is the nuclear military capability. How to destroy Israel is not exist anymore. The ring of fire, which was supposed to do the job to crumble Israel, when Iran is far away, 1,500 kilometers away, not involved at all, the ring of fire does not exist, and the Iranians are standing vis-a-vis Israel directly. And from the exchange of fire between Israel and Iran, you can understand the Iranians cannot be sure that they can continue this exchange of fire with Israel without being in a bad situation. They didn't succeed to destroy something important in Israel with 500 projectiles, and Israel succeeded with much less projectiles to do huge damage inside Iran. And the Iranians understand that Israel can reach every place in Iran and to bomb any target in Iran, and in many cases to destroy it completely. So here you have a situation in which the Iranian lost half of their strategy capabilities, the ring of fire. Hezbollah, which was the strongest element of the ring, is very vulnerable. It is now more liabilities and asset. Hamas cannot threat Israel. Israel is not controlling totally the Gaza Strip, but Hamas, no one asked the question, okay, if we eliminate tomorrow Sinawar number 2, what will be the reaction of Hamas? Because it's not relevant. Everyone understands it's not relevant. And together with all that, I think that the summing up of that, what is the big picture is that at the end of the day, Iran didn't deliver. And I think that this is the most important phenomenon, because it's not just in the Middle East everyone understands it. It's not just what was disappeared, the Shiites crescent. It is not just the fact that the Iranians cannot transfer anything to Hezbollah through the land bridge. It is not just that the Hezbollah is isolated. It's not just that the Sunni enemies of Iran and Hezbollah are now controlling Damascus and might join with the Sunni in Lebanon, and that would be the destruction of Hezbollah from within Lebanon. It's about the fact that Iran didn't deliver. And the question all over the Middle East will be, okay, Iran, they're supposed to be the superpower of the region. They pretend to be the superpower of the region. And what important all of that is the question inside. What will be the reaction inside Iran when the people of Iran understand that they're suffering from the winter, they're suffering from lack of energy, they're suffering from lack of electricity, very poor economy. See what happened to the Iranian currency, and how much was wasted by this regime between Hezbollah, Hamas, and Syria. The number that I heard is $200 billion. For such a poor country, it's huge, huge. And what will be the aftershock inside Iran? This is the big question that I don't have an answer to, but no question that the Iranian regime is in the lowest point since the establishment of this regime. And if that will be used properly, smartly by others, it might bring the regime to a big problematic situation. And now, whatever you want, you can ask. If it's not aggressive, I'll try to answer.
For that. Thank you for that. That.
By the way,
Yeah.
I want to insist, Hezbollah still exists. They have, I don't know, 2015, nobody knows exactly, 1,000 rockets and missiles. Still they have. They have many of their people still alive and can act. They lost the leadership, but the people are there yet. And then I try to do attempts against Israel. But it's totally different organization, and you can see and understand it from the fact that they are not reacting to Israeli operations inside Lebanon today, yesterday, and last week. But they're still there.
Thank you for that introduction. With your permission, I would like to move deep into Syria and start by basic question. How would you assess the new Syrian government?
Look, what we know for sure, where they come from. They come from combination of al-Qaeda and ISIS. Where they are going to, I don't know. They pretend that they decided to change their attitude towards everything. They are not anymore a terror organization. They are a sober, responsible regime which is building constitution and nominating women and so on and so forth. There is a very important term in Islam called taqiyya. Taqiyya means that you suppose you have an obligation to lie if it serves your purposes. And it's very strong within those movements. And I remember the beginning of Khomeini in Tehran. He also had a kind of a joint venture with other parties, and it was like something which is going to be more moderate, even close to democracy at the beginning, and at the end is very clear. So I don't know. They will be tested based on what they are doing, not what they are saying. They will be tested based on what they will teach in their schools. There you cannot cheat.
Okay, and
they will be tested according to their attitude towards women in Syria, and other tests that should be taken. And I don't know. I think that we have to wait and see.
Okay, we have a question from a journalist. Could you explain Israel's strategy to the new Syria? The Prime Minister says he wants to demilitarize all of South Syria to protect the Druze and stay in the buffer zone indefinitely. Is it strictly to protect the Israeli border, or is it their bigger strategy to dismantle Syria?
We have an interest that the Syrian new regime will be focused on economy, on building the state, and not preparing a war against Israel. We know where they came from, as I said. They came from very extreme movements. It will be stupid to let them to build military capability in close to the border of Israel. It's the same mistake that we did with Hezbollah and Hamas. We do not intend to do the same mistake again. They don't have any enemy that they have to fight with. No one is attacking them. If there is an enemy around them, it's Hezbollah in Lebanon. And here they know how to deal with this organization, and they can join the Sunnis in Lebanon, and together they are much stronger than Hezbollah. So we want to be sure that in the south, close to our border, there is no new attempt, this time by the new regime in Syria, to build military capability. What they are doing in the north and south of Damascus and in Damascus, it is not our business, but we will not let them to build any military capability in the south, close to Israel. As I said, again, they don't have any enemy there. The Jordanians and us, we are not going to attack Syria. We don't have any interest in having more land of Syria in the future. The extension of the area in the Golan Heights, which we moved around 10 kilometers to the east, is enough for us. We don't have any interest in to control other areas in Syria. What we don't want them to have and to build military capability close to the border of Israel.
Okay. I would also would like to ask you about Turkey's presence and influence in Syria. There have been suggestions that Israel might prefer Russian influence in Syria over Turkey's. Could you shed light on this perspective? Are those rumors?
With all due respect, I don't think that there is anyone who is too naive in Israel to think or to assess that Russia can compete with the Turks today in Syria. Turkey is behind the border. The Russians are far away. They have to fly to come through the Mediterranean. By the way, through Turkey. The Russians have huge problems in Ukraine and other places, and they don't have the energy to do it. The relations between the new regime in Damascus and the Russians is problematic. The Russians helped Assad to survive, and the rebels remember it. The Turks helped the rebels to survive, and the rebels remember it. So I don't think that there is a real competition between Syria and Turkey, and if there is one, no question that Turkey will win.
Okay. I would like to move to the Gaza front because a lot of journalists are asking about that. Israel now says it will end all aid into Gaza. What do you think how this will pay out with Hamas?
Look, we understood from the beginning of the war that not bringing into Gaza so much what people call humanitarian aid, which was much more than humanitarian. It made the Hamas richer because they succeeded to control most of what was brought in, and they sold it to the people of Gaza, and they made huge money. The less that humanitarian aid will go in, it will be less easier for Hamas to grab it and to sell it, and it might help if a war in Gaza erupted again. It would be easier if they don't have the humanitarian aid. As it is known, we did most of our efforts to because of the American pressure to bring in humanitarian aid to Gaza. I don't think that the present administration in Washington will be as the previous one, so keen to bring humanitarian food, water, and medicine to Gaza. The problem is that we brought in so much of that there is no lack, not of food, not of water, not of medicine inside Gaza, and it will take probably half a year before they will feel the lack of food, water, and medicine in Gaza if we stop it tomorrow or today.
Okay. If Israel chooses to resume the war, in your perspective, what military objectives remain unmet, or how could the military work towards achieving them? I mean,
now, if we go again to war, it will be about the destruction of Hamas, not about what we did in the first stage was to destroy the military capability of Hamas. Hamas does not exist anymore as a military organization. They don't have intelligence gathering headquarters, which are moving forces from place to place. They don't have the ability to reproduce weapon systems and so on. The system, as a military system, was broken. Now we have to eliminate all the elements, and it will take time, a long time. But at the end of this stage, Hamas will not be a factor inside Gaza Strip. Today, it's not a factor to deter Israel. They cannot make any land raid into Israel or to launch missiles and rocket into Israel in big numbers. But at the end of the next stage, they will not be there.
okay, so we are talking about military presence of Hamas in Gaza, and one journalist is asking about How would you describe Israel's new, more preventive military policy in the West Bank? Can we say that Hamas is also present in the West Bank?
Yes, but it's totally different kind of presence. They don't have any ability to produce weapons. They have to smuggle it in. They don't have an organization like they had in Gaza. They don't have the tunnels that they had in Gaza. They don't have a strong leadership which is controlling the whole area. It is local cells of terror terrorist people without a center of command in the West Bank. It's totally different situation. The capabilities in the West Bank are different. And this is why we don't use the same amount of tanks, missiles, or whatever, aeroplanes, and so on. It's different. They are still very dangerous to the citizens of Israel because they are very close to the center of Israel and the border, the old border of Israel, what we call the Green Line. But I'm living less than 15 kilometers from the Green Line, so I'm closer to the West Bank than Netivot to Gaza. So it's free. It's still a threat, but not in any kind at the level of the threat of Gaza.
Okay. We are talking about Hamas. You mentioned before Hezbollah in the northern border. I would like to go back to Turkey's influence in Syria. Do you believe that influence could turn Syria into an operational base for Hezbollah or Hamas?
No, I don't see this present regime in the foreseen future. I don't know what will happen 10 years from now, I don't know, 15 years from now. But in the next few years, I don't see this regime supporting either Hezbollah or Iran. They might have good relations with Hamas, and we will have to be very cautious and to invest in intelligence to find if Hamas moves some of its capabilities into Syria, because that might change the equation. And this is one of the reasons why we don't let anyone to build military capability near the border of Israel. We don't want to see neither the new regime forces nor Hamas forces in the Golan Heights.
One journalist is asking now about your perspective. Do you foresee a prolonged Israeli military presence in Lebanon or in Syria?
In Lebanon, we kept 5 points along the border. I don't see it's growing more than that. We will act in Lebanon mainly by Air Force and from time to time with special forces, but I don't see Israeli presence. According to the agreement, we have the right to prevent Hezbollah from deploying into the south, for Hezbollah to rearm itself. So Israel will be active in Lebanon, no question. And I don't see Israel going east of the present line in the Golan Heights. What we did to broaden the area which controlled by Israel in the Golan Heights, I think it's enough, including the peak of the Hermon mountain. I don't see Israel moving into the east. Might be occasions in which we see that the authorities in Damascus are endangering the existence and the life of the Druze minority with which we have long relations, and many of them are serving in the IDF, those who are living in Israel. And Israel has an interest to secure them. Here and there, we might prevent the regime from killing them, but we are not going to control the area.
Okay, so a final question. I think we have covered all the fronts: Lebanon, Syria, Gaza, the West Bank. We didn't talk about Iran and the Iranian nuclear capabilities, as you mentioned. Do you think that this is a good moment to take a more aggressive behavior towards this nuclear program? Do you think we should wait? What's your opinion on this issue?
I have 2 parts in my opinion and 1 remark. The remark is that I don't know. I'm not familiar with the details. I'm not familiar with the preparations. I don't know. So I'm not speaking about any date. What I say in principle, two things that are very important. One, that should be coordinated with the Americans. Israel should not act in Iran without coordinating it with the Americans. I don't hint that we need the Americans to go with us or to act with us or whatever, but it should be coordinated. We cannot surprise the American by having 500 airplanes over Tehran. That should not happen. With this administration, we have kind of relations in which we have to coordinate it. Again, I'm not hinting that we should do what the Americans want us or doesn't want us to do, but it should be coordinated, not to surprise them. And second, we should do it.
What do you mean by we should do
We
it?
should act to destroy, kinetically, to destroy the nuclear military capability of Iran.
Okay. So, General Amidror, thank you very much for your time, for being with us today. I don't know if you would like to add something else to finish this briefing.
Yes, I think that it's very important to emphasize that we don't understand yet all the consequences and the aftershock of the big change in the Levant. It is an historical change. The Iranians tried to build something more than 20 years, 25, maybe more years since it is 40 years when I was the Northern Command, the intelligence officer at the midst of the 80s. 40 years that they tried to build something and they lost almost everything, in spite of the fact that Hezbollah still has some capabilities. But strategically, they lost everything. We don't know what will be the aftershock of it, what are the consequences of that in the Levant and inside Iran. And we don't understand yet what the new connection between Turkey and Damascus will make. What will be the change coming from this new axis of the Sunnis between Ankara and Damascus? How far the new regime in Syria will be ready to accept the Turks as those who are the beneficiary of the change in Syria. So we have to be very cautious about that and to understand and to be very cautious before we say that we understand the consequences of the new situation. We should be very humble, in spite of the fact that it was a huge success, neutralizing the Shiite axis. But we should be very humble. We don't know what will be the results, and to be very cautious in our actions and reactions.
General Amidror, thank you very much for being with us today, for your time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And I would like to also thank Iman Safadi, my colleague, for facilitating this call.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Bye.